Hey, everybody, this is Zach Wright. We're here with another vision selling interview. Very excited about our guest today, Mike Myers. Just as a reminder, the vision selling, what kind of inspired this is the purpose of a vision is not so that you achieve it, but it's who it makes you today. So I wanted to invite the best sales leaders I know out there in my network. And ultimately they can drop some wisdom on us and we can learn a little bit about their journey. So wanted to just say, Mike, thanks so much for coming on the interview here.
My pleasure, Zach.
Yeah, Mike's got an incredible career. Started as a seller, moved into sales coaching on various Sandler sales methodology trainings, and most recently has jumped into starting his own software company, Coachum. So very excited to hear about this journey, Mike. Would love to hear a story on your career and why you chose sales and then sales coaching specifically.
Yeah, well, that's a good question. Long time ago, been doing this for a long time. I went to school for finance and in accounting, and when I got to school, I worked in banking for probably 18 months, 2 years, and I found that while I liked it, I really wasn't a behind the desk kind of guy pushing numbers, and I had an opportunity to actually go to work for a software company that sold a financial software package. And so I went there, and I was did like consulting and support for that package, the demonstrations, for the salespeople. And then one day, the VP of sales came in and said, "Hey, would you ever think about going into sales?" So that's how I got into sales. It wasn't any, epiphany. And so I stayed in sales for several years for that software company back then. And then from there, my next job, I just went into a sales role. And that's how I really got into the business. And I really loved the back then is the travel, meeting different people every day and working with different people and solving problems and seeing different situations. And I felt that was really tailor-made to kind of my skill set and what I enjoyed doing.
Yeah. And it's so funny. So 11 years ago, I guess that's 10 years ago now, I started an internship at Oracle. And my very first day I came in and you were the Sandler sales methodology trainer. And then I ended up getting hired the next year, and we went through that same Sandler sales methodology training in Boston with you. And that was a much longer one. It was either 2 or 3 weeks, but it was incredible. I ended up taking your training twice, Benelli's training twice, and then at Informatica, I had Columns training once. So it was just so funny that when you started Coachum with all these co-founders, I was like, man, I feel like I've been around the whole co-founder group.
You have.
You guys are the best sales trainers in the world, hands down. I wanted to give a little insight for our audience. I think you shared when you were at Capital Factory when we saw each other last. How many people have you trained in your career?
Oh, I know. I lost track. I mean, I've doing this for 25 years. There's probably, I know I think 15, 20,000 people over the years.
Wow.
So yeah, I've spent a lot of time training, seeing a huge evolution in the business over those 10 to 15 years. Over those 25 years, I should say.
Yeah. Well, I first off, just wanted to say thank you. And I feel like half of my following out there, they've got to be ex-Oracle, ex-Informatica.
Yeah.
They owe a lot of commission dollars to the little nuggets that you've dropped in the past. So really, really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
I know.
Well, I would say, I train 20,000, but it's the people that put it into practice are the ones that are going to take advantage of it. Right. Just because you're in a training class doesn't mean that, you're going to put it into practice. But that's great, Zach. And you've done a great job putting it into practice. So.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I know Sandler sales methodology is a big one that you and your company have obviously lived throughout your career. A lot of the times you get all excited in these 3-day workshops. But like, how does someone actually put that into practice and live that every day versus just like, oh, they were inspired by something and then they revert back to their old ways?
Yeah, I think that nowadays, I mean, the pandemic's changed things a lot. I think now there's a people learn differently. And I think that, we traditionally for years did 2-3 day boot camps and gave people a ton of information and then went back and put it into practice. I think, we always say you can't eat the elephant all at once. So I think it's getting laser focused on different aspects of what you're trying to get good at. So if you're new to sales, is that get really good at opening a meeting, get really good at, asking pain questions and really diving deep in that. Repetition is going to be the key. And I think that there's a concept we always think about is strategy is non-negotiable, but style is. So I think the hardest part for a lot of times you sit in a training class, and my goal was always to make it accessible. Like, I'm no better than you are, right? I have no special skills, special powers, that you just have to make it your own for your own personality. And that takes time. And it takes, you're going to struggle before you get there. So you have to be comfortable a little bit with the struggle before you kind of get to any kind of mastery, because it won't sound like any kind of methodology. So that incremental growth and development's the key, and really focusing on specific areas to get better at over time, I found has been the most successful.
Yeah. And for our audience who might be newer to software sales, could you kind of just give a brief, like a 30-second, what is Sandler? Because I know like that's been a big a big part of your career.
Sure.
And Sandler's like, what's a good maybe book or like guide for them to dip their toe in that world?
Yeah. So Sandler wrote one book, David Sandler, You Can't Teach a Kid to Ride a Bike at a Seminar. Great book. And it's been, and Dave Mattson, they put it out again a few years ago, updated it, but it's a great book for foundations for selling. And Sandler's a methodology. It's been around for 50 years, but it's continued to evolve as the market has changed. And it's really designed to help a systematic approach to help people buy, help people help your customers buy, but giving a salesperson a roadmap to take someone through identify, qualifying, and closing business. And it's really based on psychology, the psychology of communication, how people respond and react. And one, I guess, overall umbrella to the methodology is it's really about not being pushy and aggressive, right? We thought traditional selling, you think about it like, hey, let me give you 27 reasons why you should buy this product. Sandler is the opposite of that. It's really uncovering someone's needs, their pain, their gap, where they're struggling, and then providing a solution to fit that need. So not everyone's a fit, right? And it's your ability to kind of ask good questions makes you a great salesperson, not presenting a solution. So that's I guess from 50,000 feet, that's a little bit of what Sandler's all about.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember like the upfront contract and things like that. Like it's a little awkward at first, right? But like, how do you suggest kind of making that their own and really adopting that and trusting the process?
Yeah, that's a great question, Zach. I think a lot of it is for specific tactics and techniques. A lot of it's common sense, but it's really having a framework. So it's not about having a script. It's about understanding and developing a framework and making the framework and then putting your words in it to make it your own. So like if you think about like an upfront contract, it's about here's the agenda, here's our roles, and here's the outcomes. Well, now when you're in a meeting, it's like, okay, what is the agenda? What are our roles? And what do I want as an outcome? And then you put your own words in there. I think a lot of people, like in the old days, when I first started, we give people like cold call scripts, but they never work because they're not your words. So if you read it, you're reading a script, but so you want to make it your own. And it's not about tricks or tactics to trick people into doing something or buying something or agree to a meeting. It's about understanding why you're doing it. So why you're doing that for a contract is to drive to outcomes. So I think the why for any of these techniques and tactics is as important about what you're trying to accomplish, right? So if you understand the why behind it, then it's easier for you to say, okay, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. And the words will come out of your mouth the way they come out of your mouth. I think a lot of times people try to think about the technique piece of it as opposed to why am I doing this and what do I want as an outcome?
Yeah, no, that's great. I love that. And then I know your career is kind of pivoted a little bit, and it's a lot of focusing on that manager experience and making their team successful. A lot of first-time managers out there. I was a first-time leader at Oracle 2 years ago, and I definitely can attest to the challenges that come with that. A lot of times you feel like you're deal focused, It's really tough to balance that personal side plus the execution side. A lot of people that are trying to get into that first time leadership role, how would you kind of just give some advice on how to approach that experience to not have to learn the hard way and really become a great sales leader?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the things that made you great as a salesperson can make you great as a leader. And I think a lot of times what happens is that sometimes salespeople forget that, like being a great active listener, good at asking questions, good at understanding managers manage people, salespeople manage deals. So it's like understanding those dynamics are going to be key. And the way that you sold may not be the way that they should sell, right? They may have a different style. And so a lot of what I first time managers is put a process in place and then follow your process. I'll give you one example. So back years ago, I was working with a woman who just started in management, and she was struggling because she didn't know what to do on her one-on-ones. So we gave her like 10 simple questions, like, hey, what are your top 3 things for last week? How you did? And just gave her a framework for 10 questions she asked in her one-on-ones. And automatically, after those 10, she started asking those 10 questions, everything changed, because then the rep was coming there, getting information. She was getting information, but the rep was learning. They were both learning together because she had a structure and a framework. So, when you move into a frontline management role, it's important to put together those specific areas around, what am I going to do on a one-on-one? What questions do I want to ask? And how am I going to approach that with the rep? And then do that consistently. That's going to be key.
Yeah. Yeah. And that talk that you just had at Capital Factory, I really appreciated listening in on that. One thing you talked about was a lot of first-time leaders, they're thinking like quarter to quarter, am I going to hit that quota? But you need to be kind of thinking long-term on, okay, how am I developing my salespeople and to be the future leaders at this company? How do we lower attrition? How do we do all of these things to build a long-term business? So I thought that was a really good nugget that I took away from that.
Yeah. And I think that and one last thing I would say is that you think about managing, you manage behavior, right? So you think there's behavior, there's performance and results. So a lot of times first line managers only focus on the results. They have to look at the performance underneath that. And then what is the behavior that's going to really improve the performance? So it's a holistic view to skills development, as opposed to just focusing on trying to get a number in the door, right? Because that's important. But if we don't work on the right end of the problem, we could push things as much as we want. But it's really about kind of what is the behavior they're going to change to get better results.
Got it. Yeah, no, that's great. I love that. What are some characteristics? There's a lot of people that are like, I don't know if I want to go into sales leadership. Maybe it's SDR management. Maybe it's marketing. Maybe I'm a lifetime field sales rep. What are some good characteristics that you've seen in the best sales leaders out there?
Great listeners, and they really, really want to focus on growing their people. I think great leaders really focus on the team and how to get the team better, right? And so if you're like there's great hunters out there that want to go out there and just want to be a individual contributor and like to get in the mix and close business, that's great. But if you really want to develop people, and that's a passion of yours, then that's a reason to get into management. Not because a lot of times it's not about making more money, right? It's like, think about it. A lot of times there's a lot more stress, a lot more pressure. Sometimes you make less money than if you're just in your rep role. But again, you're looking to grow a team, grow people versus, just kind of bring in numbers.
Yeah, for sure. Well, like we've talked about the training side that you did at like the Sandler sales methodology side. A lot of it has to do with the reinforcement, like you mentioned. So I know you recently in the last year or so, you co-founded Coachum. I would love to hear about kind of this new company that you started with your longtime business partners here, and what you guys are doing over there.
Yeah. So again, 25 years in sales coaching, sales training, and leadership training. business. Over the years, we found a lot of times in organizations, we go in and do our work, great training, hopefully, and we delivered, but it wouldn't stick. And we really found that many times that the weakest link was a frontline manager. Like if the frontline manager took the methodology and put it into practice with their teams, then it stuck. But if he didn't, it didn't stick as well. 20% would take it, 80% would keep doing what they're doing. And so we found that there was a real gap between in terms of helping frontline managers do more effective one-on-ones in team meetings. And so we really looked at coach them leveraging technology to build a coaching execution platform specifically designed for frontline managers. And our goal really is to enable them to really up-level the skills of their people. And part of that is really leveraging data. So we're going to pulling data from CRM, from call intelligence, from the calendars, right? And we're going to analyze that data, right? And see, and then we're looking at the symptom versus the underlying cause. Like we're going to try to sift the noises out there and try to figure out, okay, where are they struggling? And then based on their struggling, in Coach them, we're going to help the manager give them a set of recommendations based on the underlying causes that they can talk to with their rep to put into practice. So we're really trying to change the coaching conversation from, hey, what deals you working on, to let's work on holistically getting you up-leveling your skills to make you better as a salesperson. And that's really Coach them's all about. It's really about understanding issues, understanding symptoms, underlying causes, and then working on the right end of the problem.
Yeah. And I remember you presented on this pendulum or like this journey, which I thought was really valuable. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about that?
So we were using a concept called causal AI. Basically, what that looks like is that, I'll give you hopefully a good example. So let's say that somebody, you look at a rep and the days to close is lengthening, their sales cycle is lengthening. Well, that's a symptom. So then Coach is going to look at the data and may pop out that, okay, this person is not getting clear next steps at the end of meetings. And so their meetings, what happens is that they're not getting those next meetings. And so the sales cycle is getting longer. So the symptom is the sales cycle is getting longer. The underlying cause is that they're not really getting firm next steps at the end of meetings. All right. So that's the underlying cause. So the recommendation is that we're going to, for example, upfront contract, we're going to have them working on upfront contract and then work on really getting those firm next steps at the end of meetings. And the causal AI will say, okay, now we'll look at the metric for number of days to close, and we'll continue to look at that over time the next week and see, did this actual recommendation impact the closing? So causal AI really, it'll educate itself to say, okay, is this recommendation good? Did it help solve that problem? And then on an aggregate, we'll say, okay, what we'll be able to rank those recommendations to say what recommendations are going to have the biggest impact on ability to shorten the sales cycle. So those are the things we're going to look at. And we'll look at individual rep data, every individual rep's data, to have managers work on specific underlying problems to help them be more effective in their ability to identify, qualify, and close business.
That's amazing. So how's it been going so far?
It's amazing. I tell you, it's a whole new world. I've learned a ton in the last year and a half. I mean, I worked with technology companies closely selling, helping them sell for the last 15 years, but it's been really exciting. We have a ton of people that have interested. We've implemented our first clients and we're getting our data now. And the key is for me is that enabling those frontline managers to be more effective at what they do, giving them confidence, not only in their one-on-one ability to do one-on-one, but work on specific recommendations and specifically on areas to improve their reps, in terms of ability to sell. So it's exciting. It's an exciting world of AI and seeing how that works. And so far, we've had a great interest in what we're doing, and we have our first clients on board. So we'll continue the journey from here.
Yeah, software game's a little bit different, huh? It's a whole different beast.
This is the first time in my career, at least the last 25 years. For the first 25 years, I did the consulting, did the coaching, and worked with teams, but I could do everything. Now we're relying on engineers and people much smarter than me on the software side, in terms of AI, that have to really put our ideas right into practice. In terms of what we brought to the table, between our 4 founders, we have 100 years of experience in sales and coaching, and we did the initial set of recommendations, and now the data will start to support all those recommendations we put in to coach them to help us understand, okay, what are the things that are going to make salespeople more effective in this new world, right? In terms of the way that we sell today.
Yeah. Wow. It's amazing. It's like, you guys turned a product from having like Column and yourself and Benelli on your shoulder and turn that into software, which is kind of cool. It reminds me at Informatica, we had a big deal and we just went through Column's training. And I remember our SVP reached out to Column and was like, hey, we're running into this problem. How would you respond to this? And I remember Column gave this like very well thought out response, which is cool. But you guys are turning that into a product, which is awesome. Are you guys still doing some of those Sandler sales trainings, or is it?
Sandler has a great product called Sales Leader Growth Series that we're bundling with Sandler. So sometimes our organizations we work with, we have a partnership with Sandler because it's in our blood, in our DNA. Yeah. But again, we're methodology agnostic. But so sometimes we go to organizations where they need the blocking and tackling. So they need the coaching skills first, in addition to, and now the coach is going to help them with the accountability and running those one-on-ones and the consistent reinforcement of the methodology when they do those coaching sessions every week.
That's awesome. So you got the training and then the reinforcement. That's the 1-2 punch. I love it.
It's again, training is useless without execution. So we're really trying to focus on how do we get the managers to coach and the reps to execute more effectively.
Mike, how's it going on personal side of your life? Tell us a little bit about some of the things going on.
That's why I have three kids. I'm taking a college sophomore year tomorrow, and a couple in high school. So yeah, it's they're keeping me busy, running around. Yeah, it's like we had kids later in life, and so it's definitely been I should probably be running around doing something else, but I'm taking care of these kids now.
Gotcha. Any parting wisdom or like any sales books that you would recommend someone? I know you mentioned the Sandler book, but are there any others?
Atomic Habit is another great book. Is Atomic Habit by James Clear. That's a great book. I encourage you to take a look at that book. It really it works hand in glove with that reinforcement and really building good habits. And in sales, I think that one of the most important things is building those consistent habits early, like you did, Zach, in your career, to really be successful and grow, because it's that inconsistency is what kills salespeople. It's that consistent habit you build day to day is really what's to find success.
Awesome. Well, Mike, I really appreciate you coming on here. For the audience here, we actually have another vision selling interview later this week, pending my wife doesn't give birth tomorrow. So if that happens, we'll probably reschedule, and I think everyone will understand. But
it certainly will, Zach. Congratulations.
Really exciting times.
Your first baby? Is your first baby, Zach?
Very first baby. Yeah.
It won't change your life at all. Don't worry. It's going to be nothing's going to change.
Yeah, that's what everyone says. No, but Mike, I really appreciate you coming on here. You've been a huge inspiration to me and a lot of other software sellers. So just to pick your brain and hear your thought process is really helpful. So really appreciate it.
Zach. All right. You have a good rest of your day. Thank you.
All righty.